Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about a couple features that I never heard about until I read the owner's manual, so if you're interested, stay tuned. The couple features we're going to be talking about today are brake disc wiping and hydraulic fade compensation. The car has never used either of these features since I've been driving it, but it's good to know that they're both there. Brake disc wiping is a feature that helps maintain brake responsiveness. According to the manual, this feature is mostly used during wet and cold weather, so it makes a lot of sense because water and snow don't mix with cars very well. Especially when you have snow all stuck up in your wheel wells and things like that. So what brake disc wiping does when it detects these conditions is it puts a slight amount of force on the rotors to basically clear away any water or snow. So you may feel a little bit of drag while you're driving, but this is obviously going to be normal because basically what the car is doing is it's braking very slightly, and it shouldn't be for that long because obviously the rotors and the wheels do rotate at a, kind of a high pace, and so there's going to be a lot of revolutions, basically per minute. And that's basically all there is to it for brake disc wiping. Basically, it's supposed to give you better braking responsiveness in bad weather. Hydraulic fade compensation is exactly what it sounds like. If the car detects that the brake system pressure is low or the ABS performance is low and not quite there, the car will basically help you out. In the racing world, we call this brake fade. So pretty much at this point, the car is going to help you brake harder than you can yourself. The manual describes that the brake pedal may pull away from your foot, and this is normal, and you're also going to feel the car brake harder than it normally would because what the car is doing is basically braking harder for you. The manual also notes that you might hear some noise, which is going to be normal because the brake pads are obviously going to be squeezing the rotors harder than they normally would, and that's what I think would be creating the noise. The manual also states to keep your foot on the brake pedal, and that's because our cars have ABS, anti-lock braking system, and so most cars these days have that. So what that is basically when you push the pedal down, the system basically will brake like this, and so it does it like hundreds of times a minute, the pads against the rotor. And so basically that's how you stop the car without it like sliding. So if you're manually doing that, pumping the brake, you're going to confuse the system because then it's just going to be all out of whack trying to go like this as you're, pumping the pedal. So just keep your foot on the pedal and then let the ABS system do its thing. Also, this is another good note for any cars in general, not just Teslas that have ABS, especially in bad weather like snow. If you have ABS, do not pump the brakes because it's just going to, like I said, confuse the system. If you didn't have ABS, then basically that's when you want to pump the brakes to basically mimic an ABS system if you're kind of sliding through the snow. So one thing I wondered about this hydraulic fade compensation is if it's enabled during track mode. So this is where I think it would actually be useful because, if you're track racing or autocrossing, you're going to be slamming on your brakes really hard. You're going to be on the accelerator really hard. It's basically all or nothing, all accelerator or all brake. So that's when brake fade comes into play because if you don't have the right part or aftermarket parts, then basically your car kind of, gets brake fade because the stock parts can't handle that kind of performance oriented, driving. And so I wonder if this hydraulic fade is enabled, so that way if you start getting brake fade while you're racing, like on the track, if it actually will enable and help you brake even harder than, normally because you basically need it if you're coming into a corner hot. But even if it does have it, I wouldn't rely on it during a racing situation. Basically what you should be doing is you should be prepared for that before and have your aftermarket parts. So you'd want to have upgraded pads, maybe street or racing pads, and you'd also want to have cross-drilled and or slotted rotors that'll help dissipate that heat faster. And you'd probably want to upgrade your brake lines to steel braided lines and get better fluid or aftermarket fluid that can handle heat better. Anyway, those were two interesting features I found reading the owner's manual. Have you ever felt either of these features being used while you're driving your Model 3? If so, when did it happen and what was the situation? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.